Hello, everyone. How are y'all doing tonight? Trying to log on here so I can see comments in case anybody hops on. Okay. So last weekend when I tried to do a live stream, I had yet some more technical difficulties with audio and static. So tonight I wanted to hop on. I did not advertise this in advance. It's just kind of an impromptu me hopping on, and I wanted to do kind of an audio test. So I'm trying a different route tonight, and instead of what I've done in the past, I'm actually using some Airbud Pros to see if that's better. So I'm going to go ahead and start on a bit of a theme for this video. And if for some reason the audio doesn't work out again, I'll more than likely just delete this and then upload an edited video soon. But just in case this works out, I wanted to have some type of content prepared. So the topic that I chose is how to alter your hand-lettered headers for creative journaling. So it looks like there are a few people on now. Please do me a favor, if y'all will, and let me know how the audio is on this video. I'm trying to try some different things and see if I can get my audio to work and figure out this whole live stream setup static free. While I'm waiting for some more to hop on, I'm just going to start out with kind of the bases for these lettering samples. And I'm in my Hobonichi Cousin Avec July through December. I still haven't collaged my cover here. So I'm just flipping through to the weekly section, and I'm going to use it in these columns. I normally primarily just use the daily section of this book. So I'm going to go into these blank weeklies. Hey, Jacob. Hey, Aura. Clearer and no static at the moment. Hallelujah, Aura. Okay, so hopefully this is going to work out, guys. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. I wasn't sure if it was going to work at all, so I didn't prepare in advance in case I needed to do an edited video. But I'm going to go ahead and start with some basic hand lettering here. And what I'd like to do is just share with y'all some of the ways that I've been altering mine lately to kind of give it an extra layer of decoration and make it look a little more dimensional and interesting. And hopefully the audio is going to continue to work out for me. So what I'm going in with for my base on all 7 of these is the Zebra Mildliner brush pen. I used these last weekend and showed how the tip of these is quite long, but it's not really separate bristles like a traditional brush pen. It's more of a foamy, kind of firm tip, so it's very easy to control. So if you don't have these, an alternative would be a Sharpie brush pen. Any brush pen that you can control. The Tombow dual-ended brush pens are probably another good choice that's pretty popular. And if you don't own any brush pens at all, the theory here is to have some space where we're going to go in and do something extra to later. So you could theoretically just do block lettering and then fill it in. Doesn't necessarily have to be a brush pen. And I just kind of made a list of what I thought might be some common headers that you may use in your planners or journals. I'm going to go like with the day of the week. I normally hand letter the day of the week on every one of my dailies for my creative journaling. But for more traditional planning, you might have a to-do header or a to buy. I'm going to make one that says today. And this turquoise, very light turquoise color here is one that definitely needs an outline. Like some of the darker colors in this line, you don't necessarily have to outline if you don't want to, but you can see here how the thinner upstrokes are harder to read. On this one in particular, there's a few like that. This one is called blue-green. There's also kind of a light pink and a light blue and a peachy color that are really light like that, that pretty much require an outline. And I'm going to do a top 3. And as these are drying, I'm going to go in with a fine liner here in just a second and outline each of them. And then we're going to do a gratitude. That's something that I don't do enough of. Hope y'all are all having a good weekend. Okay, gratitude. Hopefully I spelled that right. Oh, hey, Fran. She says, yay, it's working, finally. Okay, so I'm using my AirPods Pro. Is that right? AirBuds Pro, AirPods Pro. It's what I actually bought for my husband for Father's Day, and they fall out of his ears, so I've taken them over. I'm calling them mine. They actually were supposed to be his. I guess I'm just going to order him a set of the regular AirPods now, because we had gifted my oldest son a set of the regular ones, excuse me, for Christmas last year, and he's borrowed them several times, so I know that they will stay in his ears without falling out. Okay, and then we're going to do a little weekend here. What are the pens you're using? Okay, these are the Zebra Mild Liner brush pens. So the Zebra Mild Liner highlighters, you know, have been around forever. And then they came out with this brush pen line, I want to say in August of last year. So it has this foamy, kind of firm brush pen on one end. It's real easy to control. And then the other end has a little fine point marker, just like the highlighter line did. And I want to say they come in a set of 15. Aura says, I agree, the solid tip makes quite a significant difference when you're learning to brush letter. Absolutely. It really does. Okay, and these are some fine liners that I had purchased a while back and just recently kind of rediscovered. They are the Prisma Color brand, and it's one of those deals just like the Micron Pigma fine liners or the Tombow drawing pens. Any of, you know, I've showed there's several different variations of these fine liners that have waterproof, like archival quality ink. And so this is just kind of a version of that. And so it comes in a set where you get like 08, 05, 03, 01, 005, you know, you get these 5 or 6 different nib sizes in a set, and I really like these, so I've been using them a lot within the past week. I pretty much like every version that I've ever purchased in this type of fine liner. The only exception to that is before all of this COVID business and these shutdowns and businesses, not being open as often, it used to be part of our normal routine to pretty much go to Barnes and Noble every weekend. We would normally go either on Saturday when we were out and about running errands or on Sunday after church, but I've got 3 school-age boys, and fortunately, they're all into reading and books, and that was just kind of, almost like an activity that we enjoyed going to Barnes and Noble together, and I would let them kind of venture off on their own, and I would look at books and magazines while they picked out a book. And there's a section in Barnes and Noble that has some art supplies, and they have a line of fine liners like this there. I cannot remember what it's called, but it's like, recognize that it's kind of like an off-brand, and I do remember that instead of the body of the pens being white or black, the body of the pens were gray. And whatever that kind of off-brand or store brand fine liner that Barnes and Noble carries, I bought a set of them once, and that is the only set that I've not, been completely happy with. They work, but the ink in them is not dark black. It's like a more of a faded, not a true black, almost like a gray, dark gray ink instead of a true black. And I just like a really deep. So this is going to kind of be the base for all of these ideas. And my hope is that this will just kind of spur your thinking and creativity, because this is by no means an exhaustive list. It may just kind of get you to thinking, and you may come up with even other ways that you can embellish your hand lettering. And for the longest, I would just do this and leave it. I mean, I think this looks nice. But just here recently, I don't know, within the last week or two, I've been kind of inspired to do a little more to my hand lettering, just to kind of decorate it in my creative journal. Hello, an ink guy. I should have mentioned you today. I posted a video earlier today where I did some swatches and writing samples. I purchased recently like a full bottle of ink from Van Ness. It was Diatramentis Charles Dickens. And so I sampled that out, and then in that same order I had gotten and did a quick little writing sample of each of them. And of course I love them all. But I may go back and link you in my description. I need to remember to mention you next time I do a ink video like that, because I know your videos go so much more in depth. I just pretty much show the color and give my opinion, like, do I like it or not? But if y'all haven't ever heard of an ink guy here on YouTube, y'all need to check him out if you're into fountain pens and ink, because he goes into crazy detail about every ink video that he does in terms of the properties of the ink and like the drying time and all kind of. Yes, cement gray. I didn't realize that until my order came in, and it actually noted that on the voice. It was called Charles Dickens, and then they had cement gray in parentheses. And that purchase was inspired by Alicia, which I mentioned here on YouTube. Her channel name is Adventure Denali, and she's used that ink several times, and I've kind of had it on my wish list for a while. And I think she showed it again recently in one of her currently inked videos, but it just kind of brought it back to the forefront of my mind. And so I went online first to Goulet pens, just out of habit. I do some, fairly regular ordering from Goulet. I like to support small businesses when I can. And Goulet was out of stock in it. And so I kind of had a panic moment thinking, oh, great, I've waited too long and I've missed it. I didn't know if it was a limited edition or what. But after I saw it was out of stock there, I went to Venice Pens website next, and they had it in stock. So that's where I bought it from. And then picked up those other samples. It's a good one. Honestly, the only thing that matters about ink is if you like the color. True. That is true. But I know there are some inks that sometimes those properties, I don't even know the terminology to use. I'm definitely not an expert, but sometimes they make a difference. I've noticed, especially like the Pilot or Roshizuku fountain pen inks, they tend, at least in my experience, they tend to be a little bit wetter. So there's been a couple times I've noticed when I've tried another ink in a pen and it just didn't write very well, and I would clean it out and put one of the Iroshizuku inks in and it would write better. So overall it shouldn't matter, but I just think it's neat that there's so many ways to analyze those inks. For those of y'all that own, I appreciate your patience. Now I'm wishing I had done this part in advance, but I'm just trying to quickly get through this kind of outline here, and then we'll go right into some suggestions of how to kind of take this up a notch. Okay, so we've got some hand lettering here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 7. So let me let's see. Donna says, I was watching the ink swatch video. Well, thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. Okay, so one thing you can do, and I'm going to take the same one that I outlined with, the 01. So this is a fairly thin line, but not the thinnest. And for this first one of Monday, I'm going to go in and add some tiny little fine liner triangles. And this is kind of where you need to let your own creativity kick in, because I'm choosing triangles because they're quick and easy, but you could do pretty much any shape. But you're just essentially adding like another layer for interest. And so even though these triangles are super simple, I'm trying to put them in. Obviously trying to kind of go quickly so y'all aren't waiting 100 years, but I'm trying to put them in different directions, kind of random like. And so if you were doing this in your own journal, you could take a little more time with it if you wanted to be neater or what have you, but just inserting another layer of a shape, just something to make it a little more interesting. I think y'all get the idea here. Tell you, going back to those fountain pen ink swatches, I'm just waiting for the day that I swatch a bunch of samples and don't like something or don't like anything. That's my problem, is everything that I swatch I like and I want to get a full bottle of, and I'm thinking, I don't have enough storage to keep all this ink. So today I swatched the one full bottle that I bought, and I ordered 5 samples, and I liked every single one of them. But I think I am going to prioritize, and next time I place an order, I think I'm going to try to grab that Robert Oster African Gold. It was so pretty. And it looked like it was going to be a good shader. Okay. So we're about done with Monday here. So the first example is just adding a triangle or any geometric shape into your lettering. Okay. And so for the second example, I showed these last weekend. I had bought them for another project recently, and then realized, thanks to Mitts here on YouTube, that they actually can be used in the Hobonichi or possibly any journal. For particular, these pens will not bleed through. They're like an acrylic paint pen, I believe. And so if you don't have these, in particular, any acrylic paint pen would work, or any other marker. If you don't have acrylic paint pens, I'm just going to go in and add polka dots. I've done this countless times in the past couple of weeks. It's super quick and easy. So if you don't have paint pens, you could do the same thing with just another marker. You would just want your marker that you add the polka dots with to be darker than your base color. So you want to start with like a really light base and then just choose a darker marker to go over it. But if you have access to any acrylic markers or paint pens, or chalk markers would work too. I think it's just neat because they're opaque, so it does give kind of a different texture to the lettering as well. Okay, and then on the to buy line, the concentric circles. This was something that I tried to show last weekend, and I don't know, stick it out. I don't blame you, because I did have some audio issues, unfortunately, and static. But basically, all you do is just pick kind of random areas within your lettering. I kind of alternate between this side, back and forth. But you start with like half a circle, like you've cut a circle in half, and then just duplicate that circle around it a handful of times to kind of fill in the space. You can see I'm getting a little messy on some of these here. And then in these thin areas, you can just do, little rounded marks to emulate a circular shape. Sometimes I start in a corner, sometimes just on the edge. You are far from messy. Thank you, Karen. You know, we are our own worst critics, so I don't always feel that way, but I appreciate it. This has recently become one of my favorite ways to modify my lettering, and I'm using the same thickness here, that 01, but I think this even looks cooler if you have a finer tip like the 005. And if you take your time and do several layers with that very fine tip, it just looks so cool. I'm not going to do that now because it would take forever. But if you have a full set of these and have one of those 005s, or I think there's one line that even has an 003. Maybe this line, the Prismacolor line, I think it is. The 005 is the thinnest I've ever seen in the micron line. So I was floored when I found the 003, and I've joked with some of my friends before, telling them that excuse my language, but with that 005, I used to always say you could draw hair on a fly's ass. And then when I got the 003, I drew it out and I said, oh my gosh, I said, you just thought that 005 was fine. I said, if you could draw hair on a fly's ass with it, then you could draw dandruff on the hair on a fly's ass with the 003. That's how fine that fine liner is. Uh, it's true though. Okay, so this is kind of the concept of the concentric circles. And then if you wanted to even kind of kick it up a notch, you could go in and that very first half circle that you made, you could color it in. And then you could go back and even color in just one of the layers of the concentric circles. I hope I'm using the word concentric right. I feel like I need to get a dictionary out and make sure I'm using that word in the right context. Y'all know what I mean, though, these layered circles here. Okay. So that's just coloring in the inner circle. And then, like I say, you could go back and maybe color in like just one of your layered circles. I mean, you can just play with it. And then you can go in the empty space. You could, I could spend an hour on one word here. I just get carried away. But you could go back if you wanted to in this empty space and just add like a field of tiny polka dots to fill the area. It's not necessary, but you could do it. So I won't do that on the word by, but I'll just finish it out on the word to here so you can see. See? So you're just kind of kicking it up a notch. Okay, Donna and Aura are laughing at me. I'm glad y'all are laughing at me. I didn't want to offend anybody. I try not to cuss on my channel, but sometimes there's just, no other word to replace what you want to say. Okay, so thin black fine liner polka. I'm looking at my notes here off to the side. Okay, so on this one, basically fine liner polka dots. So here we did polka dots, real quick with a Posca paint marker. You could do the same thing with a fine liner. And you could do them in different sizes. Like if you just tapped your pen, you would get a very small. You could even work it into like a little swirly. You know, let's just be a little extra here, why don't we? Okay. So I guess my point with this one, this is not very exciting, but I guess my point was you can do polka dots with a pen. You don't have to have a Posca paint marker. Let's see. Having a common center as circles or spheres. So thank you, Karen. I think I was on the right track. We just took all of those circles with a common center and basically cut them in half, slapped them inside some fat lettering. Okay, so I'm getting a little messy here. You could be neat, you can be messy. Sometimes I'm both, but polka dots with a fine liner. And then hash marks. Now for this one, I'm gonna, let's see, I'll just keep the 01 because everybody may not have the 005. I like to do the hash marks with a thinner fine liner though. So if you have access to an 005 or an 003, that looks really cool for the hash marks. But it's basically, yeah, they don't look as good with the 001. They're just tiny little dashes. But I've done this in my journal recently and it looked a lot nicer than that. So let me just show you the difference. I have an 005 here that I pulled. It can be done like that, but these are just tiny little, very fine hash marks. So they do look a little neater to me with the 005. So I don't know if the camera picks it up or not. I mean, we're really splitting hairs here, but if I had a choice, I would use the 005 for this. But it's just like a little dotted line just to throw some texture on top of your letters. And I've just done them vertically, but I guess you could do them in any direction, really. You could do them horizontally or even at an angle. Just try to keep each line kind of parallel to the one next to it. Let's see. So what have y'all been up to this weekend, and how did your week unfold? I had yet another busy work week, and that's why I haven't been posting as many videos during the week. I wish I could, but we've been busier with work lately. I'm going to put some hash marks in these little hash marks, and I'm going to go out just parallel with the same angle that they are in. So I've been getting home a little later than I would like from work during the week, and so when I get home, I just want to chill out, do the bare basics that I have to do around the house, and then have a little me time and unwind. And so a friend of mine recently suggested a documentary for me to watch, and I don't know that I've ever watched a documentary before, but I went onto Showtime and watched this documentary called Outcry at her suggestion. And if you're into true crime or, crime mysteries, legal mysteries, football, high school football, it was a very good, very, very good documentary. And so since then, I've kind of been on a documentary kick. Okay, so for gratitude, we're going to do some Posca crosses. So I need to find another source for documentaries. I think I've just about watched all the ones on Showtime. That I would be interested in. So I'm just going to go through here in kind of the fat spaces of the letters and just put some messy little crosses, almost like plus signs. And I say I've been watching these app on my phone, and I can play it. And when I'm working in home health, there's some patients that I see that are anywhere from a solid hour to an hour and a half drive between each patient. So when I have a really long drive like that, sometimes I'll put, I think I pretty much got the gist of the documentaries by doing that. Podcasts work really well like that. I'll put something like a podcast or something on that I can just listen to and then play it in my car when I'm driving. So for podcasts, I usually do listen to true crime. Okay. So there's our little Posca paint crosses, and same thing, if you don't have these, just choose a darker color than your base layer color, and you could do it with any marker or maybe even like a gel pen of another color. And then the last base here, okay, this is one that I started doing just recently. I really like unevenly spaced vertical lines. And the first time I did it was actually like on an accident. But I like the way it looked, so I've been intentionally doing it since. So you would just take like any kind of ruler or just fold up a piece of paper, any kind of straight edge to give you some guidance. And you're going to draw a vertical line. And the key here is to make them unevenly spaced. So you may do a couple that are close together. So then you're going to skip over a bit, leave a little wider gap. And so you're only going, from the border, from border to border within your own lettering. And it looks something like that. So let's do another one very close to that. And then come out a bit. And I've been discovering and doing this kind of stuff at night when I am kind of having that lazy me time after work, kind of winding down at night. I may turn something on to listen to on the television, but if I have my journal within reach, this kind of stuff to me is what I call mindless. You know, you don't have to really think about it, but you're still using your hands and creating something. So I think that's why I've been enjoying doing this kind of stuff here lately. Okay, so here I'm going to put 3 right close together just because I didn't do that here. You just try to make it as random as you can. I'm assuming if I was having any audio problems, y'all would have let me know by now, so I'm guessing this is going to be a go from now on. My little AirPods. Maybe the mic cord was loose when you had the static issue. Well, I think you're right. Whenever I was trying to do that last weekend, I just always film from my iPhone, and I had my iPhone charger plugged into the phone and then had it on my little mount above my workspace. And normally when I film, I use the iPhone on the mount in the same way, but I don't necessarily have the charge cord plugged in. And I don't know why that never crossed my mind when I was trying to figure it out. So I think that's what the problem was last weekend, is having my phone plugged on the charger while I was trying to do live stream. Because I had no other electronic devices anywhere near. Someone suggested that a nearby electronic device may be interfering, but there was nothing else in the room. So okay. So I'll do a quick flip in case you didn't watch last weekend because of all that static. I'll do a quick flip of those pages. And so I'm going to bring this up, see if I can give you a close up of these little tips, and maybe that'll jog your mind and get your own creativity going for ways to jazz up your hand letter headers. Okay. And then what we did together last weekend, I ended up finishing the next day. So this starts the month of July. Few tip ends. That just has a, excuse me, that just has one of those tearaway calendar inserts on the back of that Goulet Pens postcard. Some of my flaming hot Cheetos. commemorated forever. And this was an order that I'd placed some time ago, a custom order with diamond with Lacao and Larai. So tomorrow I'll be working on Thursday, Friday, and getting caught up on the weekend. And I did go ahead during some of that same mindless downtime and, work a few days ahead, just laying down some. And this is Lamy 2000 extra fine nib, and the ink is Pilot Oroshizuku Shioro. They call it like the pre-ink or whatever. It's kind of like a bluish green. And this is the Mont Blanc 145 that I recently did a video on with Aurora Black. That pen is so nice, but it was gifted to me on my birthday from my dad, and I kind of went through that story in that video, but this is some more of that unevenly spaced lining that I did. And then I went over the actual just to give it another layer of kind of messiness. You can see some those Posca polka dots. There's some more little polka dots. Let's see. Okay, Aura, farewell to you too. Thanks for hopping on. Have a great weekend. More just polka dots, and here's some more of those unevenly spaced lines. Shioro is dew on the pine tree, or dew on pine tree. Perfect. Yes, I remembered pine tree, but I do like that ink color a lot. And then these little black polka dots I did with a fine liner, but instead of doing them just like tiny little touch dots like I did here, this is like a fatter version. So maybe I should have showed y'all that earlier because I think it looks cute to just do like a fat polka dot inside the lettering. Karen, I haven't gotten into fountain pens yet, but you are really inspiring me. Well, they are a lot of fun, and I'm thinking about doing a video sometime soon just to share my own journey over the past 5 or so years and kind of give some tips, because like with anything else, if I had it to do over again, there are a few things I would probably, those are some of those little concentric circles. There are some things I probably would do differently. So I will try to make that video for you soon. Okay. So that's where we are in the little memory keeping creative journal, and I hope this gave y'all some ideas. I'm so glad my audio worked, and I appreciate y'all hopping on tonight with no notice. Let's see, Karen, I received my first fountain pen in a stationery selection box a few months ago, and I haven't opened it yet. Okay. I'm trying to remember which one it might be because I also get the stationery selection box. Was it the Pilot Kakuno that looked like solid clear plastic? Because it was, yeah, Kakuno. Okay, let me see. I thought I had one right here within reach. Does it look like this? Okay, yes, that's the one. Okay, yes. This, a Pilot, which is Japanese made Kakuno fountain pen. This little thing is very, very sturdy. I mean, it's made of hard plastic. It's not like fancy or upscale by any means, but if someone was starting out, this is what I would recommend by far to be a starter fountain pen. And even though it can be a great starter fountain pen. I still use these myself, even though I have other pens that are much nicer, like in terms of higher quality materials and more expensive. I still use these all the time myself because they're just good writers. They're dependable. So the one that Mitts included in her box, I'm pretty sure it's a fine nib, which is a great entry to fountain pens. This one is one that I actually ordered separately that's an extra fine nib because I wanted something really fine when I was working in my Hobonichi weeks and the little grid lines are so small. But I cannot remember if she included, I don't know if there's a converter in the one that came in her box. It's probably not because I have a couple other of these and they normally come with a disposable cartridge and then you would have to purchase this converter separately. They're not very expensive, like maybe $5 to $7, but they normally don't come with the pen. I can't. So if you see something that looks like this in your box, then it's a converter. But if not, it likely comes with just the, let me see if I have one. Where is it? I know I had one right here today. I think I took it into my kitchen earlier to clean and left it in there. Ah! Okay. Well, I don't see it here, but let's see. Yeah. No. It'll just look like a little plastic ink-filled cartridge. And on one end, um, you'll be able to tell by looking at it. You'll put that in here, and you don't want to push and twist. You just press downward very firmly, and you can kind of feel it as the plastic is punctured by the pen, and that allows the ink to flow through. And so after you kind of press the little disposable cartridge into it, I usually sit mine upright for just a minute or two to let the ink flow down through the feed. And that's all you have to do. And these pens are so dependable, and these Pilot nibs write so well. I mean, I can't think of, like, this is on average, a $12 pen here in the US. And I've got other pens that I've spent 40, maybe even $60 on that don't work as well as this pen. So you need to break it out, Karen. Don't be afraid of it. Break it out and play with it. Just practice. So this is the extra fine. Let's see. Extra fine. And I inked it up with Aurora Black. So the cartridges that come with these are usually filled with Pilot black ink, which looks really nice. It's kind of it's a crisp black ink too, I think, but it's not a waterproof ink. So you don't want to go over it like in this kind of journaling. You don't want to go over it with a watercolor brush or it'll smear. That's the same with this though. Even most fountain pen inks are not waterproof. There's just a small number that are. So let's see. Just knowing that using a fountain pen takes no pressure. Don't be afraid of it. Yes, yes. Don't be afraid of it. I was afraid. You've given me confidence. Well, good. This is a great pen. I mean, it will be the perfect introduction to fountain pen. So you definitely need to break it open, give it a try. I wish it had been my first pen. I didn't find my first Pilot Kakuno until I had probably been using fountain pens for maybe 2 years. If I had it to do over again, it would be my very first purchase. If I get hooked, I will blame you. I'm taking zero responsibility, girlfriend. Oh, there's way more than me on here that are hooked on fountain pens. Don't start searching on YouTube if you're not ready to go down the rabbit hole. That's all I can say. Uh, okay. I've enjoyed visiting with y'all tonight. Does anybody have any other questions before I hop off? Give it just a quick minute. Y'all check out an ink guy here on YouTube. If you're still on here, is it your name Adam? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think his name is Adam. Okay. I'm not seeing any other comments come across right now. So, okay, yes, Adam. So, y'all check out Adam, an ink guy here on YouTube if you're into fountain pen inks or considering going down that rabbit hole. He does some great reviews. And I appreciate y'all hopping on with me tonight. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all go, and I will see you soon. Y'all have a great weekend. Bye.